So let's have a look at rectangles first. If you remember what the area is, the bit in the middle, and the perimeter is the journey around the outside of these. So we're going to work out the area and the perimeter of this one here. So we've just got a rectangle. It's 5 meters by 3 meters onto here. And all we have to remember is the formula. Area is the length times the width. There, and that'll give you the area in the middle. So this is 5 times 3 on here, which gives you 15, and then it's meters squared. You don't have to keep putting meters all the way through. You can just put it right at the very end on here for your answer. Okay then, perimeter. Perimeter of a rectangle is the distance all the way around. And because a rectangle, if you remember the properties, that length is the same as that length, and that length is the same as that length, we can just double these up. So 5 plus 5, or 5 times 2 is 10. 3 plus 3 is 6. So we have 10 plus 6, which gives us 16 meters. So 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3. The other way to do it is do 5 plus 3 gives you 8, and then times that by 2, which will give you 16 as well there. Okay, let's have a look at a composite shape. A composite shape. Now, a composite shape is just a shape made up of different parts. It could be 2 rectangles, it could be a part of a circle on here, like a semicircle on here as well. It could be a triangle built in, but it's the same thing. You're just adding composite shapes up. So on this one here, we've got shape A and shape B. So the area of this one is A is 5 times 3 is 15. So there's 15 meters squared onto here, 15 meters squared. Area B is 3 times 4, which gives you 12 meters squared. And 15 plus 12 equals 27 meters squared. On here, we've got a slightly different way of doing this on here because the perimeter is the distance around the whole bit on here. So if we're working these out, we've got a 5 plus a 3, and we need to work out that bit there. Now that bit that's 4, and if that's 5, that's got to be 1 onto here. So it's using logic to work it out there. So you've got a 5 plus a 3 plus a 1 plus a 3 plus a 4 plus a 3 plus a 3, and you're back to where you started on here. So you go journey all the way around. And the only difficulty is this bit here, working this bit and remembering that that distance, take away that distance, it's going to be this distance here. So adding all them up together, we end up with 22 meters. Okay, let's have a look at a triangle. A triangle, if we remember back when we were doing properties of rectangles and 2D shapes, a triangle is half the rectangle it sits in. So you get 2 triangles in the rectangle in here. So on this bit here, we know we're going to work it out. We work out the area of the rectangle it sits in, and we divide it by 2. The other way to work this out is called the base here, 7 meters, times the height. So the height here is the height of the rectangle it sits in onto this bit here. So we've got a triangle here that's 7 meters by 4 meters. So we do 7 times 4 and divide that by 2. So we do 28, so 4 times 7 is 28, divide by 2, which equals 14 meters squared. Okay, let's have a look at our circles. The circles here, we use 2 different formulas that you have to learn. I'm afraid they're just formulas you have to learn. The circumference, the distance around the outside, or the perimeter, what we call it the circumference, is pi d. And we're going to say pi is 3.14, just to make life easier and so you don't end up with a number with loads and loads of numbers recurring all the way down there. So we're going to look at this one here. So on here, we've got a diameter on here. This is a radius of 3, So if we want the diameter is twice 3, because we've got 3 there, we've got 3 there, so that gives you 6. And if you do 3.14 times 6, that will give you a fraction on here that we change S to D, and that give you 18.84. I'm just going to show you on here using pi. So if we do shift pi, the pi symbol there, times 6, okay, that will give you 6x. And you do this, 6 pi, and you end up with 18.8495555292. And you can end up rounding these up. And you can see this was at 18.84. If we rounded that up, that would be an 18.85. There. So you get 2 different answers. I prefer to use 3.14 because it keeps the numbers simpler. Okay, let's have a go at the area. Now the formula we need for area is pi r squared. So pi is 3.14. The radius is 3, so you times 2, 3, and you square it, squared. So 3.14 times 3 squared. Press equals, and you get with a fraction, S to D, and it comes out as 28.26 meters squared. And that's how you work out the circle circumference there. So we've got a few formulas to remember. Rectangle is area equals length times width. The perimeter is the distance around the outside, or that distance times 2, or that times 2 plus that times 2. Composite shape is any shape that's added together and you break it down into bits. It's the systems approach we've learnt about in class, where you do one bit at a time. Triangles. A triangle is half the size of the rectangle it sits in, so we use a formula of length times width, or base times height as we call it in a triangle, and we divide it by 2 because it's half the size. Circles, we have to remember a couple of formulas. For circumference, it's pi d. Sometimes you can see it as 2 pi r, because the radius is times 2 will give you a d, but pi d, remember that's just fine, that's another one to remember there. And finally, the area is pi r squared. You can use your pi button on your calculator if you can't remember what pi is, but for most of what I've learned, when you go to university you have to know it a little bit more if you fill levels down, but for virtually everything I've ever used, 3.14 is enough for pi. Okay, we will do some questions on this later.